Summer in Vintage Story is the best. Green trees and grass, berries, and other food types are abundant and ready to eat. But don't get comfortable. Winter is coming. Let's get prepared for your first winter in Vintage Story. Funding for this video is provided by viewers like you. People ask me all the time, Drax, how much food will I need for winter? And to be honest, this is a hard question to answer. There are a bunch of variables to deal with when planning for your first winter. This video should help you prepare, but remember, this is not the end-all guide. This is just how I prepare. First, let's talk about food types. I cannot stress enough how important it is to plant any and all available seeds as early as possible. I would focus on grains as they store longer. You may not be able to gather a certain kind or enough of any one type your first season. Also, there's the fact that one crop in particular produces both food and materials. Flax, yes, the love of all Vintage Story players everywhere, should be planted en masse as you'll need flax fiber for everything. Some might argue that this crop is not as filling as others, but it's a 2-for-1. It's hard to pass that up. I will argue with any Vintage Story player that farming is the key to not only making it through your first winter, but also to your overall success playing the game. My first time through, I thought I could live on meat alone. I was so wrong. The farm is easy to set up and you should keep it simple your first year. You can see here my starter farm has a nice mix of vegetables and grains, and I'll keep adding to it as I find more seeds. Instead of a fence around the farm, I've gone with a moat. This should keep the rabbits out as they'll try to get at my crops and drop below, which by the way is another great source of food. Don't underestimate just how many bunnies you can trap your first summer. You will not be able to use the water hole trick to water your crops, as most likely you have not made it to the Copper Age. So fire up a clay pitcher and keep those crops watered. If they dry out, they will die. If you've settled in a rainy place, the rain will water the crops as well, so there's a positive to rain chunk living. The first crop is so important to how well you'll fare your first winter. Make it your top priority, add those seeds, and keep it watered. The crops must grow. Meat is the other staple of the Vintage Story diet. Hunting through the summer and fall should produce a good amount of meat to cook and store long term. Meat rots fast, especially when it's hot, so you want to make sure you have the proper setup to get it cooked and stored fast. More on that in a bit. Berries are not something you're going to be able to store for the winter, as they stay fresh for a very short time, which means you're not going to be eating berries in January. After you get honey, you'll be able to make jam from berries, and jam has a very long shelf life, making it a nice winter treat. You can also press the berries into juice, which will extend their life as well, but I would say go the extra step and turn them into wine. This will keep you warm during those cold winter months. One last note on berries, if you're worried about food, eat berries first. As I travel through the world in the spring, summer, and fall, berries are my go-to food. Their short shelf life equals right now food for me. I don't want to waste stored food when there's free berries to be had everywhere. Crocks are the key to surviving winter. I did a great guide on clay forming. There's a link at the top of the video. This guide can help you when making your first set of crocks. This wonderful clay pot will keep your food well preserved for this winter, and if sealed, for next winter as well. My advice is to make a couple dozen of these to crock up all the food you can before the first snow. What meals you put into your crocks is up to you. Most of your food will have a shelf life past the first winter, even unsealed. Obviously, grain will have a longer shelf life, but at the cost of a fuller belly. I recommend having your crocks ready to go before you start doing any real hunting. Meat goes bad quick in the summer months, and you're going to want to get that into crocks ASAP. Now that you have the meals crocked up, you can store them a couple different ways. The first and easiest is the box in the ground method. It's simple. Dig a hole, place a chest or a vessel in it, and fill it full of your food items. Place dirt or stone on top, and your food is stored. But don't be like me and then forget where you put it. This other method is a bit more refined. The cellar, I think, is the most popular way of storing food in Vintage Story. I did a guide on cellars. The link is in the description of this video. In the cellar, you can store crocks and jugs on shelves or in vessels or chests. This method makes it a bit easier to access your long-term food storage. Remember, all your food does not need to be in crocks to be stored in the cellar. Most likely, you'll have a ton of raw food that you'll have yet to crock up. Raw grains stored in the cellar can stay fresh for years. This is a perfectly acceptable way to store all your raw food. This way, you'll have something to do during those long, cold months. Cooking is fun. Let's say you didn't harvest as much grain and vegetables from the farm, or worse yet, you didn't plant anything. You should know there'll be plenty of animals to hunt during the late fall and early spring. There should even be a few animals throughout the winter to keep you alive. The bad news here is that you'll probably spend every day hunting just to stay alive. How do I know? I've done it many times. This is why I tell everyone to plant early and get those crops going. You should also know that it's not uncommon to find wild vegetables and grains still alive in the winter. If there's snow on the ground, the wild crops will be even easier to spot. I often do seed hunting in the winter months because of how easy it is to see the wild crops. I'm not saying this is enough to sustain you through the winter, but when you're starving, every little bit helps. There are a handful of mods that will aid in the first winter food dilemma. One of my favorites, Primitive Survival Mod, adds the ability to trap fish. I've talked about this addition many times on my live stream. We need this in the base game. Yes, I know you can hunt fish with a spear, but this mod adds wooden fish traps. When placed in the water, they can become a steady source of food. These traps have saved me a number of times from going hungry, and they're especially helpful when doing a cold weather run or living on an island. I love the fish traps. Great tips, Dracs, but how much food do I need to survive my first winter? I was thinking maybe some math here would be fun. I'm joking, I'm not great at math, but let's give it a go. Let's say you need to eat 3 meals a day, and we know each crock holds 4 meals. Now, it's not going to be perfect because each meal could be multiple servings depending on how hungry you are. So, winter is 3 months long and there are 9 days in the default month. So 9 times 3 is 27, times 3 meals a day equals 81 meals. This is high, but let's be generous. If each crock holds 4 meals divided by 81, we get just about 20 crocks worth of food. Now, is this perfect? No. Will it be enough food for winter? More than enough for one person. Moreover, it's a reasonable goal to achieve for your first winter. How's my math? Have your own calculation? Share it with me in the comments. Do you think you can survive your first winter now? I hope these tips help. Please share your winter food stories with me in the comments. Also, remember to check out my other vintage story guides, links in the description of this video. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. The video's over. Now it's time for you to do your part. Follow, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.